Hello, everyone. It's Sam and FiFi from Standard Park UK, and we're back for another Midweek Musings.
Hello.
How's your week been, Fee?
Yeah, it's just going all right so far. Um, I don't know, the weeks just seem to go, don't they? They just
Well,
fly
I was
by.
thinking that last night, like it's Wednesday already again,
I
and like I
know.
feel like it started to speed up again. I went through a stage
Yeah.
where the days felt really long, but
Mm,
it seems to be starting to speed.
yeah, yeah, but it's been all right. We're having really nice autumn days here at the moment. I don't know how it is where you are, but and it's just like
Cold,
really
but
blue. It
yeah.
is colder, but it's all really lovely blue, vivid blue skies with all the leaves that have changed and they're, just all golden and bronze and
Yeah,
yeah.
there is something very beautiful about
I
autumn,
love
and
autumn. Yes, I've got my little my autumnal cushion and the hot water bottle. Again, it is definitely colder.
I've got
Um,
a cat
and
that
you've got a
works.
cat. Yeah. cozying down. But yeah, it's been all right. You had a bit of a weekend, eventful weekend again up in
Yeah,
London.
yes, yeah. Yeah, week's been a bit up and down. But importantly, there has been ups, which,
That's
yeah.
always a good thing.
Yeah, I did. I went to London on Saturday and joined the Human Chain
Mm.
in support of Julian Assange. Um, It was a great day, actually. I mean, it was a beautiful day for a start. It was
Yeah.
really, blue sky, sunny. It
Mm.
was actually quite warm. But I actually ended up taking my jumper off and standing, on Westminster Bridge in my Stand in the Park t-shirt,
Oh, nice.
which, in
Yeah.
October, you kind of don't expect that. But yeah, it was a really good day. It was I believe we did manage the chain. A lot of the news seems to report around about the 5,000 mark. But there was obviously huge train strikes on Saturday.
Every
Sort of,
time.
yeah, it's yeah, another coincidence, of course.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean ours they were heavily reduced. I mean normally there's sort of 6 or 7 trains an hour. You
Yeah.
can sort of just turn up at the station whenever and jump on a train. And there was only 2 an hour. The last one back was 5:45, so it
Mm.
was earlier than we'd normally get back. But
Yeah.
enough for us to get there. But I know that there were quite a lot of people that were put off and didn't go because they were
Mm.
concerned about the trains, which so it had the desired effect. But it was um, it was really good. It was a really nice atmosphere. But it was a really, really different crowd. I didn't
Mm.
see many familiar faces. I saw a
Mhm.
few, but not a lot of familiar faces. And actually, what a lot of us the people that I went and some of the other people that we did talk to, it was quite surprising when you walked. So we got to Parliament Square and then sort of walked along to find somewhere to join the train.
Mm.
Um, the amount of people wearing masks was quite a surprise.
Yeah, I think that the whole Julian Assange thing is another one of those kind of bridging
Yeah,
issues that
yeah,
between, I don't want to say us and them, but like people that maybe aren't kind of on the same, I wouldn't say the same wavelength either, but yeah, maybe they've not delved quite
quite joined up all
into
the
the
dots.
same, yeah, into the same thing. So I'm kind of not completely surprised by what I am surprised by is probably just the number of people wearing them again.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
then
ironically, there was one chap. He had a lovely mask on. Across it said
is there such a thing?
freedom.
Sometimes there's just irony that's so ironic that it just you can't there's no words, are there? It's just
Yeah.
wow, maybe that wow.
Yeah. I mean, what I think, what I kind of took from it is as you say, is this sort of bridging issue that, at least these people, even if they aren't seeing everything, they're seeing that there is a huge issue, with regard to these restrictions on our right to free speech, and the kind of restrictions on having a free press, and that, you know, journalists are being heavily kind of restricted from what they can and can't say. So, you know, the acknowledgement that there are these restrictions on our rights and our freedoms to be able to kind of speak and know the truth are there. So, you know, it's a starting point,
It's
at least.
levels, isn't it? We were talking about this a bit earlier, weren't we, in our usual pre-musings natter about there's this push for truth. Definitely, it's happening. We're seeing it, but how far are people willing to go? And I do include myself in this, because as much as I've delved into, you know, really been down the rabbit holes as far as I think I can go, there's always more, and there's always that hitting that point where, oh God, do I want to know this? And I think that's what we're kind of seeing, aren't we? Like there's so much coming out, and but you're kind of, well, is it must be being allowed to come out on some level.
There's definitely an aspect of that. I mean,
there has to be.
I was saying to you earlier that, you know, there's been previous times where I've shared, because there's been multiple videos from, you know, injured people that have taken the, I want to be very careful with my words because this is going to go out on Facebook and YouTube.
Oh, we're calling it Britney Spears now, aren't we?
Oh, is that it? I mean, the carrot emoji went, didn't it?
Oh no, forget the carrot now. But I think that's the having the Britney.
They ate the cake and have been injured, and there's been multiple videos kind of, you know, calling very rightly for these people to be acknowledged, because at the moment anyone who is sharing their own experience is being told that they're misinformation and they're being censored and removed. And, you know, I think that just in itself should concern everybody. But previously, within 24 hours, these videos were just removed by Facebook. Now, in the last couple of weeks, I have shared 3 different ones. All of them are still on Facebook. The safe and effective one, which I think, you know, everyone is probably aware of. I mean, it's got a partly false information on it, but it's still up there and it's still viewable on Facebook and on platforms like YouTube. So there certainly seems to be this slight turning of allowing this information to be dripping out. I think I was watching a video by Ivor Cummings earlier, and he was saying that the rules on YouTube, they've actually removed certain bans, you know, on things like, particularly relevant this week is the issue of the fact that the injections don't stop transmission. So obviously prior to, I don't know how recently, anyone who claimed that it made no effect on transmission was removed and censored and told they were spreading misinformation, and that's now actually been removed and people are allowed to say that now.
It
so
does beg the question, doesn't it? Is it because we're creating this sort of atmosphere, this environment of truth where these things, it's almost like it's kind of protected now, not to sound too woo-woo, but, you know, coming from that sort of frequency thing where we're actually changing what we're living in, or is it, you know, that this thing is so huge, we're talking, you know, it's genocide, it's a cult. How much can that be hidden when you've got hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people being injured, die? I wonder if this will be allowed to stay up actually when we're talking about this. You know, is it, and is this being factored in to this whole insane narrative, this whole shift? Is it being somehow woven in that at some point it will be, yes, this is terrible, this can never be allowed to happen again, and all these people being thrown under the bus, but that it's actually kind of them paving the way for, and this is what we need to do now, and you're back into, it's almost like a false awakening. I think there's the real risk
like that. It feels quite stage managed.
Exactly. And I think we have to be very conscious of that,
I think
And
it's only right to be pleased and celebrate the fact that,
it's
you
still
know, in
truth.
many ways a lot of
Yeah.
it is starting to come out, and absolutely, you know, it because the more truth that kind of makes it out there, the less people are going to go and get injected. And to
Mm,
me, that's the bottom line. Whether it's
mm,
stage managed, whether it's
mm-hmm,
crisis managed, whether it was intended to come out, you
mm.
know, whatever's happening, I think, you know, as much that comes out has only got to be a good thing. But yes, I agree. We do need to be quite
I think
cautious
it comes
about
back to
where
that.
it's
Yeah,
going.
it comes back to that. How much truth can you handle? So I think there's the risk that it's all coming out and but there's still that desire in people to be led, to
Yeah,
have these governing bodies, to, you know, and if they're coming across as being, you know, polar opposite to what we're going through at the moment, this tyranny, it's still, it's that whole kind of false messiah thing that we have to just be constantly. I think it's just checking in, isn't it? You get a feeling, and if you can get to the point where you can see past what you would like to be true, and you're like, oh, I really want this, but you've got that, you just like, yeah, there's something there, and go with that, then I
yeah.
think we'll be okay. But I do think we're still at that point where people, on the whole, very much want things taken care of for us to be taken care of, and to kind of hand over.
I
And
think that's across the board as well, to be
yeah,
quite honest with you.
no, I
Uh,
absolutely. It's certainly not just people that are going along with the narrative. It's you know, we're all in this. We're all having these like revelations thrown at us. We've all got our thresholds. If some of us are just truth seekers to the core, and that's, I've always been one of that. No matter how hideous the truth might be, I just have to know. I just have to know. And I might
yeah,
have those moments of, oh God, I don't want to. And but there's always that push to know what everything, what this all is. And we were saying again earlier about how the kind of truth that people are seeking now is it's so much bigger than, you know, like really important questions like, who are we, what are we doing here, how did we get here, why is our history just being rewritten, you know, what, there's so many massive questions like, where are we, what is this really? And so I think that we are on that path to like genuine discovery, but it's not for the faint-hearted.
certainly not.
You know, it
Certainly.
really isn't. It's like, oh my God, you know, just finding out things about ourselves and what all of this is, that flies in the face of everything that we've ever. Well, you just take things to be true. It's a given. Don't even question it. And that's starting to sort of unravel now. So it's very interesting. But again, you've got to get rooted and grounded in yourself. Otherwise, you could just spin out, and it can be very destabilizing.
I think I mean, my personal theory on all of this is it is about destabilization. In terms of, I mean, we've seen it with the economy, we're seeing it with, you
Hmm.
know, the health service, and all kinds of other areas of life. I think in terms of the truth coming out, obviously we had the admission by a Pfizer executive that actually from day one they had no evidence to suggest that it did anything to transmission. And, you
It's
know, these, oh, it's
but
95% effective against, no, well, that was actually all just blatant
and it
lies
was
from
the
the very beginning.
blase way she
She
sort of
laughed.
comes out with it, as if, you know, like, oh
Just
no, well, and you're like, oh, what? as if it's actually, well, of course.
Because of course that was the entire basis for the mandate, for
And
kicking people out of their jobs, for not allowing people access to society, was because they were a danger to other people. Well, there was never any ever, I mean, obviously, there were those of us that were like, hello, woo, and obviously we were, labeled as giving out misinformation, but it
this is what
is
people cannot be allowed to forget, isn't it?
absolutely
What we've been through. It's very easy to kind of just, you move on, don't you? We all kind of have to, but there is that when things calm down, and that sort of really heightened anxiety and stress and fear kind of dissipated a bit. It's easy to sort of, right, don't want to think about that. But my God, we were saying, weren't we, about just the, yeah, but being hounded, sitting on a park bench,
the
having
sheer
police around
vitriol
people, and yeah, the absolute,
coming from the media, celebrities, even friends, family. It was this sheer hatred for people
yeah,
that were not rolling up their sleeves. And to the point we were, I was reminded, of points where I was getting to the point where I was concerned I would not be able to visit a
yeah,
supermarket to get food for my children.
yeah,
I wasn't bothered about bars, restaurants, whatever. I just wouldn't go out. Do you know what I mean? And I
yeah,
wasn't working at the time. So again, that wasn't
mm,
immediately affecting me. But when it came to the discussion about whether they should stop us from going to supermarkets, and I was sat there thinking,
unreal.
it was never a case of, oh, maybe I should get it. Like, that was never a question. It was like, okay, so how am I
No,
going to get my food?
yeah,
But I do think, many people have forgotten how intense the hatred and the pressure on those of us who said no, how massive that
the
was.
division was huge, wasn't it? It was an actual visceral split.
And that people can now, there's so many people that 2 years on are turning around and saying, well, actually it turns out that this, and actually, yeah, they were right. But it's kind of being swept under the rug, what we've been put through, when we are now
Yeah,
finding out that we were, I mean, we knew we were right, but that outside um validation
mm,
is coming from the people's trusted experts,
mm.
that we were bang on, we were on point, we actually did know what we were talking about, and the truth is coming out. um but I don't think it should be allowed to be forgotten,
No,
what was
absolutely
done to
not. It
people and
was,
their lives and their mental health based on a choice that they made. um
it
you,
was, it was a genuine campaign of terror, actually, when you look back on it, and especially like knowing what was behind it. That's what frightened me the most, when it all just kicked off, even like before, way before the jabs were, the Britneys were being, sort of put out there. It was just knowing what this was the start of, and just feeling absolutely, yeah, just alone. And what on earth do we do? What on earth? And it just being in that intense state, obviously, then starting the stands and meeting people, it really, really helped hugely,
big
as
time.
it did, a lot of people. So you weren't in that isolated state, but still, just the conversations we were having to have, it's just, you couldn't make it up. It felt like being in like a sci-fi novel or a film at times, where you're this sort of protagonist that's been thrown in, because you're looking around and basically everyone's just going along, like sleepwalking into this thing, and there were so few of us. And like you say, yeah, just even the basic things, like, are we going to be able to get food? Are we going to, I mean, thank God things did
Yeah.
turn, because we're fortunately, as a people, not quite that far gone yet, that they were going to kind of tolerate that, but still, it's yeah, we can't
I
forget.
do think it's a very important point that we can't forget. I don't mean hold on to it and be angry about it, but there needs to be a level of accountability as this truth comes out. It's not just about this truth
Absolutely.
being revealed. It
Mm,
is about having some sort of accountability for what
mm,
we were put through. And I think as well as that, those of us that did resist all of that, those of us that, stood strong and, believed in ourselves, I think we have to remember what we went through to remember how strong we actually are.
yeah,
Because there were points through there where you're like, I don't know if I can do this. But
yeah,
we did. We
yeah.
did. And I think remembering that in terms of, whatever's to come,
Mm,
for people that stayed strong and true to themselves and their own beliefs through that entire campaign,
yeah,
um, I think need to really remember what that took, and really kind of, embrace that and remember you are some of the strongest people
yeah.
alive.
It's easy to kind of, yeah, just sort of forget that, or just, oh, because you're just doing what is natural to you. Um, but yeah, it certainly wasn't easy to be doing it with that constant pressure, and just families being divided over it, still are. Um,
Yeah.
Irreparable damage in some cases. Um, yeah, we there has to be that accountability. There has to, but again, like being very wary of um this possible, using the
I'm sure
situation
the
to,
Fall Guys have got, like X's on their heads, like which ones have been earmarked for, yeah, it's his fault.
well, this is the thing, isn't it? And then it's like we just, I don't know. I'm a bit conflicted, because part of me thinks we're too clued up. Like the push for truth is so strong now, um, that it's not going to wash if they try and manipulate and coerce the game. But if they're coming from a different angle where it seems like they're genuinely, I don't want to sound like some like paranoid, like, oh, there's no hope. But they're not silly. We all know about controlled opposition, and it can seem like the absolute epitome of love and compassion, and there it's all, we've just really got to stay the course until this is through, and who knows when it will be. Probably not in my lifetime, but I think we just got to, yeah, stay strong, keep doing what we've been doing, going without. It's just that inner knowing, isn't it? It's just, and not taking that. I think this is what kind of separates the yeah, those sort of warrior spirits, is that you're never taking the easy option. It would have been so much easier. I mean, okay, like I was never going to get the arm spear in a million years, ever. That was just never going to happen. But there have been times when I felt, oh, it's easier to just stay quiet when someone's bare about absolute, and it's like, no, I'm going to say my piece. And for me, for someone like me, that was brave. That too, that's far more brave for me than going, no, I'm not having a jab, because that was never a question. So I think that's it. It's just not going with what you want to hear, how you want things to be, because then the
A lot
pressure's
of us
off.
have we've found our voice over the last couple of years, and I think obviously it's important that we continue to use it because
Mm,
throughout this we have seen that when we use our voice and we are empowered and we speak out and we do things, we can make a difference. I mean, we've seen
yes.
this week with
Hmm.
regard to PayPal,
Yeah.
um, the amount of people, after their, you know, censorship and
Yeah. My
threat
account
of a
went.
was it £2,500 fine? Or was it more than that?
Yeah, or dollars, whatever. Yeah, it was.
Um,
Yeah, and then it all.
for
Oh,
for
it was
posting
a
something that they
mistake.
didn't agree with.
Yeah,
But the
that was my
amount of
mistake.
people that have just spoken out and said no, I won't be using PayPal, the amount of people that have
Well, they
shut down their
lost
accounts.
5 billion, didn't they, so far?
They've lost an
And
insane
people are
amount of
still
money.
closing their accounts. I've shut
And I
mine
think, you know,
down.
it is a reminder of what not just our voice but our collective voice can
Yeah.
achieve. You know, it sent a very, very clear message
Mm.
to PayPal. They've tried this and now they've backtracked and they're going, oh no, we're not going
Too
to do that.
late.
But this is, you know,
Mm.
they cancelled, you know, dissenting voices. They've
Mm.
now, you know, they've then threatened to fine people.
Mm.
And I think, you know, if they've done that once,
Oh,
twice,
they've
they
revealed
will do it
their
again. You know,
true
they're testing the
colours.
water.
Yeah.
And obviously, if they're allowed to get away with it, it paves the way for, you know, every other corporation to kind of, you know, do what they like.
Yeah.
So
But
I
it's
think it's
all
very, very
consent, isn't
powerful.
it? It's always us choosing to comply or not. So it's very clear case here. Right, that's it. No. And then they're scrabbling around, oh God, you know, because they're losing. That's what it's about in the end, for not at the very highest levels. Forget money, that's not what's
Yeah.
motivating it. It's a symbol of power. But for those that are at like big business, who aren't
Lower down
right
on the
right
food
right
chain.
in the club, it's money. That is
Yeah.
their power, and they'll do anything to make sure that it's preserved, that it's still coming in. So we do have a lot of clout, and money is the way. Very often it's like these businesses that are going card only. Oh well, bye then, I won't be using you again. And they will soon reverse that when they start losing money. So it is, you kind of vote with your pounds or your dollar or whatever, don't you? It is, the power does lie with us within this horrendous, like, capitalistic, commercial environment that we're living in. It's all running on us. It's our money. So we have got a lot more power than people think. And things like keeping cash, we demand it. They have to. And it's the same with everything, actually. It's down to us. We're the many, they're the few, and we need to remember that. They don't want us to remember that, obviously. They do anything
Obviously.
they can to make us believe the opposite, but it's true. It's actually a lot more simple than we think when it comes to how we actually want to be living. But yeah, it's just a rocky road, isn't it? It's kind of getting there.
It is.
Uh,
It is. But, you know, I still, I believe in taking the wins where you can. And
oh yeah.
yeah, obviously you've got to stay balanced about whether you're being allowed to win with some of these issues.
Yeah.
But I, you know, I do think there is so much kind of very positive stuff sort of coming out and things to be positive about,
Oh,
even
absolutely.
though
It's the
there's a lot of stuff to knock me so.
balance, isn't it? Balance again. You can go completely like paranoid to the point where it's just there's literally nothing. Whatever happens, it's all part of their design.
Yeah,
You may as well, if
I
that
do.
is the view, I think, like I said, be vigilant, don't be naive, be aware that they've been around a very, very, very long time. They know our psychology and how to get to us. But again, the divine spark, the human spirit, they haven't got a grasp on at all. And when you rely on that over and above what's going on round in here, and trying to work things out and so-called logic, when you rely on this that's guiding you, this thing that we have that they don't, it's, the path is clearer a lot clearer, and you're not being sort of led by ego trying to keep itself safe the whole time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, I think I did have a little list today, which is very
We tried to be a bit
unusual.
more prepared rather than just keep banging on about
I
it. Yeah.
don't know whether it's come across like as actually being any more prepared.
Yeah, let us know if this has appeared slightly more structured than previous ones, or whether it's worth making lists in future or not.
We had quite a bit to talk about, really, didn't we, this
Yeah.
week? Yeah, is there anything else that's sort of cropped up that you've noticed?
I think for me, um, the only other thing which I didn't mention when we were planning, but has popped into my head when you said that, is about um, and it's part of the reason I spoke about, taking the positives, and about realizing our power and remembering what we've been through, what we've survived, and how strong we actually are, is because I'm aware over the last few weeks there's actually been quite a few deaths within our community.
Yeah,
I'm not speaking locally. I'm speaking in terms of the freedom community. Now,
yeah,
with a couple of them, it has been confirmed as suicide. There's a few more that hasn't. The cause of death hasn't been, and I wouldn't want to,
yeah,
speak out of turn. But I think we all need to be aware of just how much pressure we all put ourselves under, because we're aware of what's going on in the world. We're aware of where this could potentially take us, and what that means for us, for our children, for the world. I think it's very difficult to know and still kind of keep that balance
mm,
of kind of, still taking the good where you can, and enjoying your life, and making it meaningful.
yeah,
And I think I would urge anyone who is struggling,
mm,
reach out in some
yeah,
way to anyone, because I can guarantee you that there are people that will want to support you.
yeah,
It may not feel like it, but there are.
mm,
None of us can do this on our own.
no,
It's hard. It is really, really hard. And I just think, you know, as well as taking responsibility for ourselves, making sure we're checking on each other,
yeah,
um, making sure we are remembering to take care of ourselves, to look for the good that's there, and yeah,
mm,
try to do what you can without putting too much pressure on yourself, because it breaks my heart to
I
kind of,
know,
hear of all these people that the way it seems is that, it's gotten too much for them. So check on your friends, check on
yeah,
yourself, reach out if you're struggling. My inbox is always open to
yeah,
anyone. It
same,
doesn't matter if we're friends, it doesn't matter if you know
no,
me.
hmm,
If you are nearing that point, please reach out. I
get
have
in
been there.
touch. Yeah,
Like,
we
I've
all
been there.
have.
I know exactly, well, not exactly, we never know
Yeah,
exactly how we're all feeling, but I know how it feels to be there, and I would be willing to support anyone.
yeah,
I just
same.
I hate hearing about it, and I think I just wanted to touch on just
Yeah,
being
it's
aware.
important. It's yeah, it can get very bleak at times, and if you haven't got someone who's there that can kind of pull you out when you're really, I've said it so many times that I've had to pull back because it's been too
Get too much.
overwhelming, too I can feel myself slipping. Then I'm no help to anyone, never mind myself. And I think if you can, some of us can gauge that, but other people not so much, and they do need a bit more. I mean, and that's not to say that I haven't needed support as well. But I think sometimes it's easy to really go so far down the rabbit holes with these things, and because everything's so contradictory and you never really seem to get a final answer on it, I've felt like I've been going absolutely nuts at times, and that's going back years. That's not just with this, it's with all yeah, story of my life, where you're just trying to get answers, or to get some kind of, I don't know, whatever it is that you're looking for. It's very easy in all this, but yeah, it's always others that will help sort of restore that, even if it's just literally taking your mind off it. off of this stuff. I mean, so many times where I've actually thought I'm just going to end it all. I've actually been really, and then I've spoken to someone on the phone and I'm laughing, and I'm suddenly not okay. Maybe everything isn't absolutely
Yeah.
wonderful again, but it's like I'm actually having a laugh here and connecting, and it can be as simple as that. Um, so yeah, it's definitely reach out, and we've got our community here, so that's what it's about. Nobody should be feeling alone, and that they're going through this stuff.
I mean, I think, the important thing is what we see is after someone has, chosen to
I
depart
know,
from
just
this journey is this outpouring
yeah,
of absolute grief from all the people around them, and even people that didn't know them personally, but has seen them on
yeah,
live videos or seen the work that they've been doing and all that
mm,
kind of stuff. And you see this outpouring of respect and grief and love, and you kind of just think, if only that person could have seen
yeah,
how much they meant to strangers who have seen their posts. And sometimes a single post that you do can actually
oh
touch someone in a way
yeah,
that gives them the strength to carry on.
yeah,
um and I think, yeah, for me, it's a time to reach out, let people know that they're cared about, let people know that they mean something. We are all vitally important,
yeah,
in this. It is not just our responsibility. It's not, the pressure isn't all on us. Everyone, we're doing what we can,
yeah,
but it's life isn't all about the fight. It has to be
no.
about finding joy, and making connections, and finding a way through it that doesn't crush your soul.
Well, you've got to see it as you remember what you're fighting for, don't you? So all those things, those lovely, the wonderful stuff of life, we wouldn't be fighting if it wasn't there. If there was nothing worth fighting for, that this would
Well
just
said, yeah.
be. So just remember, and when you are having those really, and I believe me, I've been, I couldn't tell you how many times I've been properly on the edge and suicidal in my life, various reasons and different events and things. And it's always been these little things that just enough to just pull me up a little bit, where it's like, no, I'm gonna keep going. Just this tiny little spark of joy, and it's always there. I think there needs to be a bit of a willingness to see it, but you're basically just asking for help, really, and those little things come, and so often it is the people around you that can and there's no one that hasn't felt what you're feeling on some level. And whenever we're going through this stuff, there's so well how many times we've been very open in our videos about what we're going through, and the
Yeah.
comments, we felt really alone and isolated. I mean, luckily we've got each other, but then in the comments, yeah, feeling exactly the same, know exactly what you're talking about. So if you just sort of put the feelers out a bit, but yeah, be very mindful of the people around you, and notice if they're acting a
I
bit
mean, it's not
differently,
always
or
obvious, but
it's not, and it's not. Sometimes
I
it's just,
just
but yeah, we can be aware, I think.
so huge amounts of love to everybody.
Yes.
Um, care of yourselves, take care of each other, hang in
Yeah.
there. It's gonna be
Yeah.
okay.
We'll speak to you soon. Lots of love.
Bye.
Bye.